Started off by saying hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Bounty Hunting Across the Galaxy with Todd and Ken. And in this episode, we're going to talk about the most recent season of animated Star Wars content. And yes, I'm talking about Tales of the Underworld. So you might as well just buckle up and get ready as we get put our pieces together to start this show. If I can just figure out how to do it. Bounty hunting is a complicated profession. This is Bounty Hunting Across the Galaxy with Todd and Ken.
All right, and this time I waited a reasonable amount of time before I cut into the middle of the intro.
Nice.
So I'm Todd. I'm also known as Cypher Nim in my Mando uniform.
And I'm Ken, sometimes known as Kenix Gar Kabur in my Mando, my custom Mando costume. You know, I'm so glad that you got together with me tonight to do another fun episode of Bounty Hunting Across the Galaxy.
Oh, absolutely. I look forward to these every month, and I'm hoping that we can get a couple people on tonight. I did kind of spread the word just a little bit, but I kind of leaned towards 9 o'clock. So hopefully we'll get some people on as soon as they get the notifications.
Well, then, and by 9 o'clock, we'll probably be into the thick of the episode, the meat of the episode. I mean, normally when we get together, we start off with just a little bit of warm up where we talk about there are Star Wars adventures or recent additions to our collections. And so I'm curious, what kind of Star Wars adventures have you been on lately?
To be honest with you, I mean, it's been just an incredible month. I mean, we've had so much to do in the last month between school ending and stuff like that. I haven't had a lot of Star Wars adventures, but I've been working on trying to figure out what I'm going to do as far as my Mando kit, because I think I'm starting to get the itch to do something with it. And I'm considering maybe going for a brigade, but I'm not even sure if I want to take this kit and rebuild it for a brigade, or if I just want to start fresh. And with time allowances and stuff like that, I do a lot more planning than I do building. So I've done a lot of that.
Did you have a specific brigade in mind? Because I know that there are so many of them. Some of them are based on the environment in which you live, whether it's, you know, you're a jungle Mando or an urban Mando. Not urban cowboy, but urban Mando.
Urban Mando, yeah.
And then some of them are based on your level of armor. I think yours is medium armor because you don't have shins and thighs and biceps and all that bicep
Right.
armor and all that. Or is it based on the weapons? I know the typical weapon that you carry around mostly is a staff. Is there a specific brigade you had in mind?
Well, see, that's kind of the compromise, because I'm considering either going into the medium armor or a melee brigade. But the third one, and the one that I actually didn't realize existed, is there's actually a mechanic brigade.
Oh, really? Okay.
So, and I didn't actually know about it until all the times I've been through the forums and I've looked for brigades. I don't think I've ever seen it, but I was watching one of the, I don't know if it was a live stream or a video of one of the Mandalorian mercs, and they were actually talking about working on becoming a mechanic.
Okay.
So I haven't done enough research to say, oh yeah, that's what I want to go for. Because again, I don't know if my kit would fit in there as it stands right now, or if I'd have to do heavy modifications, or again, like I said, maybe I just have to start brand new. But I'm going to try to do some more research and figure it out. And if I have to start new, then I might just have to start working out my 3D printer and making some stuff. Of course, mine's a little small, so everything's going to be in pieces, but it's going to be pieces and glues and get it all together.
Well, depending on the requirements for the brigades, you might not necessarily have to redo the kit so much as just come up with new accessories to carry around. So, for instance, I know with like the gunslinger brigade, you have to have so many weapons. Or if you're an
Right.
assassin in the assassin brigade, you have to have, a long rifle, and you have to have some other bits and bobs. So you may not have to do once again, it depends on the brigade and the requirements, but you may not have to
Right.
do a lot of stuff to your costume itself other than adding some accessories and everything.
Yeah, and that's kind of, I'm trying to hope for like a more minimal touch, just to kind of boost this one up into a brigade instead of remaking a kit or making major changes, because I put so much pride into this one as it stands. So I don't know if I want to do it all over, if it's going to be like the same feels, the same,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I'm surprised too with your name. I'm surprised you didn't necessarily go down the path of either being a slicer or a droid specialist or something.
I mean, that's always a possibility, but uh, like I said, I gotta look through all the different rules and stuff like that and see where it's gonna land. Because right now, I'm just thinking about the next step. What do I need to do to get to the next step? Where do I need to go? And what am I gonna be happy with? Because I mean, like one of the biggest things is if I go melee, then I don't think I can have the rangefinder on my helmet, and that means a new helmet and a new paint job and a new da 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 da. Um, but I think if I stick in medium armor, I everything that I have is good. I don't think there's any extra armor requirements except maybe a back plate, which I already have one cut. I just need it formed.
Okay. And those are
Um,
so hard to form yourself. I mean, you need I think, and this is just with my limited prop making skills. I think it's one of those things where you need at least another set of hands that they can help, make sure it fits you properly. And even if you're going the path of Sintra, to be able to help heat form it, and you can't really do that to yourself very easily.
yeah, yeah, it's nigh impossible. In fact, that's why it's cut, and I don't have it on anything. So, and we can say hi to Susan. She's watching.
Oh, hey, good to see you. Well, it's funny you mentioned the back plate. That's one of the reasons actually um, why I wear a cape, is so I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about having a back plate.
Yeah, I have a cape for the same reason, because I just couldn't get it. I couldn't get it to work.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I even scrapped a piece because I tried to do it and I couldn't get it quite right. So I made like this smaller, almost like the stormtrooper sized back plate. But now I actually cut one of the full length, like Jango Fett ones.
Oh, okay. Well, one
So
of the things I was thinking about, I also have that creative itch, and I have so many bits um, amassed. So I have many of the pieces to put together season one Pinto Din, the Jaren
okay.
armor. So that was before it became all Beskar, the one where he had the shore trooper shoulder and the other random shoulder bell, and it was mismatched paint colors and stuff like that. That was the I have some of those parts. I
Right.
have um I have parts for a Death Watch Mando. I have parts for a post Imperial custom Mando, including a resin cast helmet. And then I have
Yeah.
other bits and pieces where, like, I even made my own design for the chest plate, which was a take on that Din Djarin look, where it's just one piece instead of having the separate chest armor like Mando, or sorry, like Django or Boba Fett.
Right.
And I even had it stylized and stuff. Still had the chest, the was the Iron Heart, is that what it's called?
Yeah. Yep.
So it still had it an iron heart in the center, but it
Yeah.
was stylized around it and things along those lines. So I think if I do the math right, I have bits and pieces for at least four more Mando kits, not counting the ideas that I have for the weapons. Because one of the ideas I wanted to put together for a custom Mando was a gunslinger, and I wanted to have no less than 7 weapons, not counting, knives and things like that. And you remember Baze Mulbus
Yes.
from Rogue One, how he
Hmm.
had that really cool blaster that had a chain that went to his backpack.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
even
yeah.
have um, plans, modified ones, to have that, including using EL wire to go from the backpack to the rifle that glows.
Oh my God, that's
But
so cool.
I just haven't put the bits together to make anything.
Now I did see, and not to give you any aspirations, but I did see somebody that had that rifle that actually spun up the
Oh
the
yeah.
the Gatling minigun part of it actually spun.
Well, there's have you heard of Galactic Armory?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah, so they sell the bits for it, and they even provide the plans for putting it together so that the barrels, as they rotate, an
yeah.
LED will light up in the,
Flash is just the one. I did
yeah,
see that. That's really cool.
complete with like a sound card to get the right kind of sound associated with the rotation and the right kind of sound.
Oh my
Um,
God,
for the
that's
blaster
amazing.
part of it, and it uses, from what I remember, it uses the motor and the parts from a cordless drill.
Oh, okay.
So there's
That would
all
be
these different
simple enough.
pieces that get cobbled. Yeah, simple enough. For someone who takes things apart and puts them back together again on a regular basis, simple, yes. But for
Yeah.
someone like me, it's like trying to build a nuclear reactor.
Well, I would have problems with that. Mostly getting the uranium, but
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, I mean, there might be some, floating around there.
Right.
And my only Star Wars adventures lately, I know I've mentioned to you a couple times in the past that I had a codpiece accident where my codpiece cracked and I couldn't
Correct.
salvage it, so I couldn't wear it in my costume anymore. But I recently finished my loincloth, and I even got it approved by the Maviola clan's Roussillor. So now I'm good to
Good.
go. He's seen the pictures. He says it's appropriately sized and everything like that. So I can, get to trooping in it without having to reapply or submit anything else.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that's a huge,
That's always helpful.
yeah, yeah. Because I had enough struggles with the approval process to begin with, and I
Mhm.
was not looking forward to it if I had to go through the whole thing from the beginning. But because one of the things he said to me was, I wasn't changing much of my costume. In fact, it was just the one piece,
Yeah.
just the cod piece. I was swapping it out for a loincloth. So, it doesn't change the rest of the armor. It doesn't change the weapon. It doesn't change the helmet. It's just that one piece. So
Right.
it didn't have to go through all the rest of the hoops and everything.
I wonder if you just get a new weapon, do you have to go through new approval, or because
No,
I
I
know
think,
like some people just bring stuff and then they start carrying it, and that's pretty much all it is.
yeah, I think that's only needed if you want to go the extra length, like we were talking about with brigades. But when it comes to going to conventions or posing for photographs and things like that, you don't have to go through all the rigmarole. But if you want to be approved in a brigade, or you want to um, build a new costume, then you have
Yeah.
to get those weapons photographed and get those weapons approved and things like that. But if you're just like, let's say all of a sudden, yeah, I want to have an E11,
Yeah.
and walk around the next Comic Con with it, no worries.
There's nothing to stop you.
Yeah.
I mean, so like when I originally built my kit, and I know we're diverging here a little bit, but when I originally built my kit, my initial intention was to be like a sniper. I wanted to have like a sniper rifle. That's why I took the rangefinder helmet over a different one, um, and everything that I wanted was more like a long range, and then I was just going to carry a sidearm pistol or whatever. But of course, then I started looking into what I needed to build a rifle or what I needed to purchase a rifle, and it got a little crazy. And to be honest with you, the parts for my staff kind of fell in my lap. So the nice thing about the staff is everything is repurposed from something else. There's nothing that wasn't already used in some other way, shape, or form other than the glue that holds it together.
Well, and there's some other benefits to carrying a melee weapon, and I'm partial to a melee weapon because I have a 7 foot pole sword for mine, or Nagatina, or whatever the actual samurai name for this thing is. Um, you can use it to rest upon while you're trooping, and you
Oh yeah,
can't do that as easily with a sniper rifle or a blaster rifle or anything like that. And in some of these events that we go to, they have rules about no firearms, not even phony baloney ones, not even Star Wars ones. But
yeah,
I haven't gone to an event where they've said, oh, you can't bring your sword, you can't bring your staff.
yeah. Well,
So
that's true.
sometimes you can get away with that. And also with a melee weapon like yours, I mean, yours is a staff that has fancy ends, pieces at the end.
Mhm.
Some parents aren't necessarily fond of their children posing for photographs with a gun. you
Yeah,
know so
that's
with
fair.
staff, if you wanted to, I'm not say, I don't know how comfortable you are with handing your weapon over to children, but if you wanted to, some parents are more open to them holding something like that for a photograph than they are a pistol or a rifle or
Yeah,
something.
that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I do like the staff is like perfect because when I'm tired, I can put my hands on the top of it and rest my chin on it, and it's like just the perfect height. So
And it looks like you're posing, like
it does. It
yeah.
looks perfect.
Yeah, people can walk by and look like you're posing. Mine is meant to be, almost ceremonial. Like the British guards with the big furry hats and stuff, where
Yeah,
I stand at attention with this big sword. But yeah, that's one of the reasons. That's another one of the reasons why I chose a melee weapon over a rifle or a blaster or something like that.
yeah, yeah. When we did the Comic Con in at Allentown, um, the Lehigh Valley Comic Con, I actually got to the point towards the end of the day, and I just stood there with my staff and just stood still. And a lot of people, there were a number of people that just walked past me and didn't realize I was a person. So,
Yeah, you're like a statue.
yeah. So, yeah, I was standing with all the helmets and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure there was at least one kid that was completely surprised when I moved. So,
Like the guys who paint themselves gold and stand in public parks to busk for money.
right, right. But, in red,
Yeah, red and silver, right? Or
red and gray. Yeah.
red and gray. Yeah, okay. And have during the since the last time we got together, have you added anything to your Star Wars hoard? Have you added new pieces to your collection?
I haven't collected much. I have got some new shirts. I got two of them for uh, Father's Day. This is one of them
Oh, that's very cool.
in the galaxy. Um, and I think I sent you a picture of one of the other ones. And then I actually just got a plain Star Wars shirt, just black shirt, yellow script. It's like one of my favorite shirts now. I don't know why.
It's simple. It's to the point. Everyone knows. Like you don't need flashy. It's just yes.
Yeah, yeah. And my boss just on Monday, he came in and I came in and walked down to the desk and he's like, "If I bought you a shirt, would you wear it?" And I'm like, "Probably. What is it?" And he showed it to me, and it was um, a AT-AT that was posing like a dog doing its business, and there were snow troopers coming out the back, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'd buy that. I'd wear that all over the place."
Oh, that's. I think I saw that. Was at T Public or something like that,
It
or
might be, yeah,
yeah. That's pretty funny. And see, one of the things I do like when folks know you're a Star Wars fan is that those random bits will happen. So, um, it might have been 2 years ago now when they did the Star Wars themed Oreo cookies
oh yeah,
with the red
yeah,
and the blue filling or whatever.
mm-hmm,
So I came in. I went into work one morning, and one of the leaders called me up and says, "Hey, are you in the building?" I said, "Yes." She's like, "I've got something for you. Don't move." Okay, so I'm in my office. I'm waiting for this visitor, and she opens up the door and just says, "These are for you." And it was an entire pack of Oreo cookies that were Star Wars themed. She's like, I saw these in the supermarket. I know you like Star Wars. Have some cookies.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was
I
just
mean, it's cookies, but it's
yeah,
still cookies.
yeah. Here you go. Like, and so once again, like they're in this person was in the supermarket, saw Star Wars, like yeah, Ken likes Star Wars. Ken likes cookies. I'm gonna get him these Star Wars cookies.
Right,
You know,
right.
so
The
it's
question is, did you eat the cookies or are they
of
on your
course
shelf?
yeah, because it's funny that you say that because I do have um, many kinds of Star Wars food, like candy specifically, that I didn't open. And I
Yeah.
know at this point it's probably melted all together and stuff like that inside the package. But yeah, the Oreo cookies I definitely ate, and the blue milk I definitely drank. The blue and green milk I definitely drank. I
I
didn't leave
wouldn't keep
those in.
that.
Yeah, yeah, it wasn't that wasn't a great thing. But recently for me, what I've picked up are a couple new books.
Oh
I
yeah.
picked up the new novel Wayseeker. I haven't started reading it yet. That's
Okay.
the story that takes place during the time of the Acolyte. And
Okay.
then I also, speaking of the Acolyte, I got the Acolyte Visual Dictionary, and it's a lot like the other visual dictionaries. So whether it's Attack of the Clones or The Last Jedi, and it's just filled with all these pictures with in-universe descriptions. So it gives you the name of the droid, or it gives you the name of the character. And one of the cool things about Star Wars is that stuff doesn't always show up on screen. Like you don't always hear every character's name, or they don't name every droid.
Right.
But in this book, it's filled with it has pictures of coins and pictures of weapons and even pictures of the do you remember the noodle robot that was in the first episode?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that droid has a name, and they show pictures of that. So I think what I might do, and we were just talking about our Mando kits, I might go through the Acolyte Visual Dictionary. And I know that the time periods may be slightly different, but I might pick a weapon or two from that visual dictionary to include in my Mando kit.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, and it's really really cool book. The one thing I was surprised by, normally the print is really small in these books because they're trying to cram so much information into it.
Yeah.
This one, and I don't know if it's they are doing it because I'm getting older and they want me to be able to read it, but the font seemed bigger.
They did it just for you,
Yeah,
Ken.
yeah, they know I'm getting up there in age. And then the most recent thing happened last night. Heather went out and about, and she says, "I don't know if you have a Smee robot, so I found one and got one
Yeah.
for you."
Very cool.
So, so those are the latest things that I've added to my collection. Some of them I picked up myself, and then Heather surprised me with a new toy. So
Yay, Skeleton Crew stuff.
yeah, exactly. And I'm hoping that they decide to do another season of it. That show was super fun.
It was really fun. I mean, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I'm hoping because I really enjoyed that one. I know, like I watched that with my wife, and I surprisingly with Pirates, I could not get my kids to watch it, but I'm still holding out.
There's a chance, that it's not done yet, because one of the best things about Disney Plus is it's there.
Yeah,
So as long as you've got your subscription, you can watch it whenever.
yeah. No, I know, and I was just surprised because they were the game that they're playing currently. Well, at that time, I don't know if they're still playing it now. It was Sea of Thieves, which is all pirate based, and the shows that they were watching One Piece, so which is all pirate based, and I'm like, this is right up your alley, but Star Wars, like you should be all about this, and they're like, yeah, I'd rather go do something else, but you know how teenagers are, so
Yes, just let them know that it's out there, and if they want to talk about it, they can.
yeah, when they're ready, they'll come watch it with me, or because I'm always down to watch it again.
Yeah, it was a fun ride, that's for sure. And the cool one of the many cool things about it is it was built in such a way that there's so much room for more.
Yeah,
Whether it's more from where the story ended and where it continued on, or even you could go backwards in time and find out, Jod Na 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 Wood's origin story, or how SMEE ended up on that planet in a crash ship to begin with.
yeah, yeah.
And it could be a movie, it could be a novel, or a series of comic books. Who knows? But they have
Yeah,
so much room there for additional stuff.
yeah, yeah. I mean, they really could. I mean, they could. I mean, they do have an amazing way of just fitting all this stuff together. Like, I don't know the team that's behind making all the things fit where they need to be, but whatever they're doing it right.
Yeah, and it is literally a team. I mean, they call it the story group, and there's people like Matt Martin and Pablo Hidalgo and Leland Shee, and I think it's Kiri Hart. Kiri Hart was involved, and like so many people are involved, not counting the actual creatives. So we're not talking about the authors of the comics or the authors of the novels or even the showrunners for the comics, or the cartoons and the movies and the live action stuff, but the whole story group. And you
Yeah.
have people like Pablo and Leland who even go so far as to look at the equipment. Well, that wouldn't have been there during this time period. You need something else, or that blaster, was from the High Republic and wouldn't have been used by First Order. So it's amazing the depth that they'll go to make sure that it's as correct as it could be for this
Well,
phony baloney made up thing anyway.
and they need a team because there's so much stuff going on, and there's so many different media types that's coming out all the time. Like there's always a new novel and a new show and a new comic book and a new, and just to keep all that together. I mean, I remember when way back in the 1900s, 1990s, where there was this rumor that there, and I don't know if it was true or not, but there was just that one guy that they called him the Holocron
Yeah,
that
Leland
kept
Sheen.
track. Is
Yeah,
that who it was, Leland Shee?
yeah,
So, and he was the keeper of everything that was Star Wars. And if you were writing a book, then you had to go through the Holocron in order to fit it in the right time. And Han Solo wouldn't wear those pants. He only wears this style pants, and for whatever media they were working in, whether it was a book or comic book. And now there's no way that just that one person could do it anymore. There's too much stuff,
yeah. And
way
think
too much stuff.
think about this as a job. Like your responsibility is to know random facts about this made up galaxy. Like that's your thing. That's what you do. You talk to people all day long, whether it's someone who's making a video game, someone who's drawing a comic book, someone who's putting together one of these encyclopedias on this galaxy that doesn't really exist. And you get to be the person who looks at all of it and says whether it's accurate, correct or not. And even in some cases, come up with names for some of these things or some of
Yeah.
these characters or some of these planets.
I would say yes in a heartbeat, but I would hire you as my assistant for sure. Because I
Sure.
don't think I
Yeah.
certainly couldn't do it alone.
Yeah, there's got to be some wild database spreadsheet, some sort of thing. I can't imagine that it's all on, loose leaf paper or even, made into a binder of some sort. It's got to be electronic at this point.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's out there. I
Well,
mean,
even to the point, and this is taking us way down the path, but like Ben Burt's sounds that he recorded for the movies, there's an audio library.
yeah,
So if you're looking for a Chewbacca roar, that's going to be different than a Rancor roar, which is different than the various Crate Dragon roars. And this was his roar when he was mad. This was his roar when he stubbed his toe. This was his roar when he needed crackers. So
right,
there's all of that stuff, plus even the musical pieces. So this bit is Leia's theme. This is something that they played for C-3PO or the Millennium Falcon and all the
yeah,
various um, things that have shown up. It's amazingly complex for something that's not real.
right. All this for a fictional universe.
That's 48 years old
Yeah,
and
I
still
know.
going and still growing.
Yeah, and there's new content, like I said, almost daily.
Yeah. And speaking of new content, let's dip into what we were saying we're going to talk about tonight, and that's the most recent addition to the Disney Plus Star Wars animated universe, and it's
Yeah,
called Tales of the Underworld. And so this show that was released this year, It's made up of 6 short episodes. Each episode is about 15 minutes long or so, and the first 3 episodes focus on um, Asajj Ventress, and the
Right.
second 3 episodes focus on Cad Bane. Um, and so, with that in mind, are you okay with us starting off with like a brief overview of the series before we get into the details of each episode?
Oh, absolutely. I think that would be the best place to start.
Yeah, the beginning is a very good place to start. So this description that I'm about to read for, normally I don't read word for word, but I want to make sure I capture it accurately. This came directly from Disney Plus, and it says, "Enter the galaxy's dangerous underworld in this 6 episode journey through the experiences of 2 iconic villains. Former assassin and bounty hunter, which is right up our alley. We love our bounty hunters.
Yes, we do.
Asajj Ventress is given a new chance at life and must go on the run with an unexpected new ally, while outlaw Cad Bane faces his past when he confronts an old friend, now a marshal, on the opposite side of the law." And this series, Tales of the Underworld, is the third kind of series like this. So originally they had a Tales of the Jedi, and
Right.
that was similar makeup. So 3 episodes and 3 episodes. Those episodes were about Ahsoka and Count Dooku.
Correct.
Then there was one, Tales of the Empire, and they had 3 episodes about Barriss Offee and 3 episodes about Morgan Elsbeth. She was one of the Night Sisters, and you may remember seeing her in Mandalorian and the Ahsoka show.
Right.
And this one is about, um, like I'd mentioned earlier, Asajj and Cad Bane. And one of the things I think is really cool about this episode, or this series rather, is it takes 2 characters who have some sort of similarity and then shows the different choices that they get presented with and how it impacts their journey. So Ahsoka and Count Dooku both started off as Jedis. That's not how they ended. Barriss Offee and Morgan Elsbeth, even though they didn't have relations with, as both of them had relations as Jedi, they both had connections to the Force.
Right.
Morgan being a witch of one of the Night Sisters, connecting with the Force through witchcraft, and Barriss being a Jedi. And once again, their paths diverged in wildly different ways. And in this
Right.
case, this Tales of the Underworld, the big similarity between both of the characters is at some point in their lives, they served as bounty hunters,
Yep.
but their beginning, their middle, and the ends of their journey are wildly different. And so with that in mind, what are some of your general thoughts about this set of 6 episodes?
I mean, okay, so these 2 characters, they have a place in my heart. They always have. I always enjoyed Ventress, uh, her story through the whole Clone Wars animated show, um, and same with, I mean, Cad Bane, same thing. That's where he started. Um, really enjoyed seeing the what was just a single character in a team of bounty hunters when he first showed up is now this individual character who really just kind of stepped out from just that team, just like Boba Fett did from the team of bounty hunters that were on the Star Destroyer in Empire Strikes Back. Like, he just kind of stepped forward, and he was the one character that I really kind of grabbed onto. And the other thing that you didn't mention was, I really like the fact that one of the stories was well before A Phantom Menace, and
Yeah,
the other one was during the time between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. So these are not even the same time period, like happening at the same time or even close. I mean, they're 20, 25 years apart, maybe more, from start to finish. And I think that they really kind of drew you in with that. There was no preconceptions that all this stuff was going on at the same time, because Asaja's was, let's say, more towards the end of her story. No spoilers intended. Um, and Cad Bane's was definitely the beginning of his story. So, I mean, that's what came to me. Like these bounty hunters, and I'm going to use bounty hunters loosely. I know they were both bounty hunters, but Ventress, of course, was an assassin and a Sith, and a pawn, and so much more.
Yeah,
But
I mean, like when you look at Asajj's life, I mean, let's get out of the story part of her life and look at her origin as a character. And it's interesting that we had mentioned Dooku earlier because in the concept part of Asajj's creation, this was around the time that they were making Attack of the Clones, and they needed another villain. And
right,
so Asajj Ventress was one of the concepts for the villain. And instead of going with her, they went with Count Dooku instead. And Asajj was used in the Jendi Tartovsky's um,
right,
animated Clone Wars, and
Clone
then she
Wars.
became a character in the Clone Wars. So her origin story as a character is pretty creative, and she's always had that wild, like stark white design with some tattoos on her and very sleek, and the armbands and being able to dual or wield two lightsabers at once and
Yep.
things. So that's always been there. And then when you
Yeah.
look at her story as a character, so she was a Dathomir witch, so
Correct.
she was connected to the Force that way. Um, she was given up as a child into slavery,
Right.
was rescued by a Jedi who started to teach her some of the Jedi ways, and her master was killed, and she like just traveled the galaxy that way, being like you said, you taken advantage of as a slave and made into a bounty hunter and an assassin, and then at some point started working for Dooku.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Palpatine found out about it, and he ordered Dooku to assassinate her, to get rid of her. After
Right.
all that she Asajj had done, she survived it and then turned on Dooku and attempted to assassinate him. And that's just part of the stuff that she went through. And that's just a single character over the course of many years of comic books and cartoons.
Right. Right. And I mean, she's had team team ups with a lot of the Jedi that we do know from the Clone Wars. So, I mean, so she has played both the separatist side and not necessarily the Republic side, but leaning towards it, especially once she got betrayed. I mean, it, what an incredible story. I mean, just a what was originally a villain straight through. I mean, you say assassin and there's no good context, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, just to see this assassin turn into a good-hearted person, if not a good person, um, is really just a dynamic change in her character.
And especially considering all of the things that she has been through, because it would be very easy for her to just to stay, for lack of better words, evil, to stay a villain mentally, but that's not how she rolled. In fact, at one point, you mentioned team ups. She was encouraged to team up with Quinlan Voss in
Right.
an effort to assassinate Dooku. So the Jedi themselves, the protectors of peace and justice, Mace Windu and Yoda, spoiler alert for the Dark Disciple book, they encouraged that team up for the two of them to go and potentially assassinate Dooku. And unfortunately, in the book, she dies. And in
Yeah.
this cartoon, very first episode of this cartoon, we get to see how she comes back to life because, oddly enough, not too long ago, the third season of the Bad Batch, she was in it, and people are scratching their heads, going, "Wait a minute! I thought she died in this book. How is she
Yeah.
alive?" Now we found out. We figured it out.
Right. It was definitely a nice crossover to bring her back. But I did want to say before we go too far, if you haven't read or listened to Dark Disciple, it is such an amazing book. Like, if you don't need to be a Star Wars fan to enjoy that book.
It's
Um,
a romance.
it really is. There's romance in it. Yes, there's lightsabers. Yes, there's assassination plots. It's mysterious and suspenseful, and there's a lot of action. And if you're looking for anything in a book, or even if you just want to listen to the audiobook, I encourage you 110% go out and get it. You will not be sorry. I mean, to the point where if you get it and you don't enjoy it, I think I'll pay for
Sure
it.
thing. And one of the cool things about the audiobook, I don't know if you got a chance to listen to it, it's built like a movie. So there's sound effects in the background, there's music sometimes, and it's wonderfully voice acted, this book. And the book is one of the things that solidified my dislike of Mace Windu as a character.
Agreed. I mean, he did not look like the good guy in that book at all.
No, not even close. And I know that in theory the Jedis are the good guys, but this is where you get to see that not all good is good.
Yeah, there is, let's say, a lot of gray in that book.
Yeah, very much so.
Good guys doing bad things, bad guys doing good things, and so on and so forth, and a lot of blurred lines.
Yes. And
It's an
once again, a
amazing,
love story. Like I am not someone who goes into a bookstore or to Amazon or any place that gets the books. I want a really good lovey-dovey kind of thing. I want to, and over the past 2 years, many of the Star Wars books that I've read have had some sort of love story in it, and I haven't been upset about it.
no, no. I mean, no, not one of them. So, I mean, I've read some good books too. I mean, even Battle. I read Battle Scars not that long ago. The one about Cal Kestis, the in between the two games.
Oh, okay, I haven't
That
read that one yet.
that one was good. It How do I want to say this? It was There were times when it felt like they forced it around the video game, the
Okay,
the the novelization around the video game. Sometimes when you read a book, you can tell it's written from the movie or whatever. So
yeah.
there was a couple points in the book where it's like, okay, you did this because it's a video game, you know. But I mean, other than that, the book was actually really good. There was a lot of interaction between the characters, a lot of stuff. If if you've ever played the game, um, from the end of one, the Jedi or Fallen Order, to the beginning of Survivor is a whole different tone, and you definitely learn where all that came from.
Oh, that's cool. I got to check that one out. That's one that I
Yeah,
haven't listened to yet.
yeah, yeah. When we get a chance, I can let you borrow it when we get together,
Okay.
because it was good. I really enjoyed it. So
Another thing we should probably talk about with this, and I forgot to mention it at the beginning, um, that the animation style for this show is picked up right from Clone Wars. So we've had
yeah,
7 amazing seasons of Clone Wars, 3 seasons of the Bad Batch, and the style, the animation style maintains what has come before it. So
yeah,
it's beautiful to look at, and sometimes it's amazing to think that this is in fact animation. Just the fluidity at which the characters move, and it's not blocky and choppy like the first season of the Clone Wars was. It's
right.
incredible what they've managed to do with it, and I'm so glad that they're continuing with this animation style.
Oh, absolutely. And the other thing that you really should mention out is all these episodes are I call them snack size. So it's just long enough that you can enjoy it and then move on with whatever you wanted to do if you wanted to watch a single episode. They're only about 15-ish minutes each, a little bit different between episodes, but right around that 15-minute mark. So if you got like 15 minutes that you just want to, and that does include the intro and the credits. So
Yeah.
it's really more like 12 minutes. So it's really nice and snack size. So if you want to get into it and just watch one, before you got to make dinner or before you got to walk the dog or whatever, it's definitely an easy way to just jump in, watch one thing, and then go.
Yeah, and even in those 15 minutes, it's pretty rich. There's a lot of stuff tucked in there. Whether you're thinking just visually or the music. I mean, the music is done by the same folks who did the Clone Wars and Rebels musics. I mean, the Kiners are involved in this, so the music is fantastic.
Yeah, it really
And
is.
it's a self-contained, would you say snack size? That's a great
It's
way
snack
to
size.
describe it.
Yeah, it's like when you don't run a whole candy bar, you don't want to have time for a movie
Yeah,
or whatever. You just jump into one of these, and on your way.
yeah. I need my Star Wars fix. I got 15 minutes.
That's right.
That's awesome.
It happens to the best of us, you know.
So on one side of the equation, you got Asajj, who's gone through a whole lot of stuff and we know a whole lot about. And on the other side, we got this Cad Bane guy.
Right.
And this show has really helped me realize, solidify for me that I don't like Cad Bane. And there's a lot of reasons why, and we'll get into some of them later on, but I think he's a fantastic villain to dislike for many, many reasons.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with that. I mean, to me, when I look at Cad Bane, he's like the quintessential bounty hunter, like, and not like the Din Djarin. He's like the guy you want to be afraid that's going to come after you if you've done something wrong. You know,
Yes. Even
he's
from the
ruthless.
silhouette of him,
Yeah. Oh, that hat and the bullets on his boots and the the pistols on his side. I
his
mean,
sharp teeth.
the sharp teeth. I mean, first of all, he looks like he's straight out of a western, and that's scary enough. Um, Somebody of his demeanor, and then carrying himself like he's straight out of the good, the bad, and the ugly, you know, or whatever spaghetti western you like to watch. I mean, he just kind of jumps out at you and is like, he's the guy that you need to be afraid of.
Yeah, because you
Simple.
he has his own rules. He's gonna do what he's coming to do. Um,
Yeah.
and did we mention he has red eyes? Did we say that out loud?
I don't know that we did, but now you did.
Yeah, like creepy red eyes, and his head looks very skull like, and those sharp teeth, and the green skin, and the wide brimmed hat. Yeah, he is a combination of scary horror kind of monster look and cowboy bounty hunter.
Yeah. And I'm just going to point out there, those red eyes, they're almost like dead inside.
Yeah, because there's
And
no
I think
pupils or
that's
anything.
the way that really gives him that extra depth of what is that, you know? Like, right, there's no pupils, there's no iris, he just has red eyes. And just those eyes coming out from under that hat, you're like, oh, I messed up.
Well, and I know we're talking about Tales of the Bounty Hunter. I think it'd be silly for us not to mention that they did an incredible job of bringing him to live action for the Book of Boba Fett.
Oh, again, that point in the Book of Boba Fett when he shows up in the town with the marshal, and just he's in
Freetown.
the yeah, in Freetown, when he just walks in from like off screen, you're like, oh, I know who that is. Oh, this is gonna be bad. Like right off the bat. Love it's and Cad Bane's that kind of scary that I just want more of, you know?
Yeah, you betcha.
Right? He's not Dog the Bounty Hunter. Like, you don't want to watch like a weekly episode of what he did next. Like, he's the guy that you don't want to see.
Yeah, he's almost heartless to a certain degree. He's very machine like. He's going to do what he came to do, and
Yeah.
if you attempt to get in the way of him doing what he needs to do, he's going to take you out as well because he's got a mission. He's got he's got plans.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's crazy. He's just crazy. I have so much love for Cad Bane. Again, the mask. I don't know if I could do it, but other than that, I would so do a Cad Bane outfit
Well, it's
because he
funny that
is
you mentioned Cad
so
Bane.
cool.
One of the things I've been toying around with, and I know it's not approvable in the Mando mercs, but I've seen at least two different mercs do this, where they created a brim that fits down over the dome of your Mando helmet,
Okay.
and so it gives your helmet that cowboy hat look to it.
Oh,
So I've thought of doing that. I even have the template already made up for one of my helmets, where I can make that brim out of high density craft foam
okay.
and heat it up and fold it to a certain way and have it just rest. I'll get my approval pictures and all that kind of stuff. But then when I want to, I can just put that brim down onto my helmet, because the one helmet that I've got plans for doesn't have a rangefinder,
Yeah.
and it would just sit there, and then wear like a duster. And
Oh, that would be cool.
I even have ideas for um, taking, I don't know what they're called, but the metal bits from a tambourine,
Yeah.
the cymbals
The
or
the
whatever,
yeah.
taking some of those and building them into a box that can attach to my boots, so that when I walk through the convention, it sounds like
Like
spurs.
spurs. Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure we can make something.
Yeah, so
I'm
I've got
sure of that.
that's one of the many ideas that are bouncing around in my head for that gunslinger um, custom Mando.
Nice. Very
You know, we
nice.
we probably should make sure we're also mentioning not just the story and the animation, but the makers who helped bring this to life.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so this set of 6 episodes were written by Matty Mishkovitz, and he's
Okay.
worked on a bunch of Star Wars stuff, including Clone Wars and Rebels, Bad Batch, and those other Tales of shows.
Okay.
Um, and you had mentioned the Fallen Order video games. He worked on both of those as well.
Oh, that's very cool. I didn't
All
realize.
of the episodes were directed by Saul Ruiz and Stuart Lee.
Okay.
Kevin Kiner, he composed the music. His some of his kids got involved in some of the different pieces, but then you got all the voice actors that we know and love. You got Matt Wood and D. Bradley Baker, Nika Futterman, Corey Burton, um, Barbara Goodson. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. Steve Bloom shows up a couple times. David
Okay.
Acord, David W. Collins, and then Art Butler, who voices, I believe, he voices Lyko, the little Jedi guy that we come to know in the show. So many makers were involved in putting this together, and that's just the background of the show. So if you're okay with it, let's take a step into the first episode, which was called, I want to make sure I give the right name, A Way Forward.
Okay. So, I mean, again, like, well, actually, I'll let you start this
Okay.
because I think this is you probably have a good lead in here.
Yeah, so I had mentioned that book, The Dark Disciple, and at the risk of spoiling it for you, Asajj Ventress dies in that book. And at the very beginning of this animated show, we get to see Quinlan Voss and Obi-Wan Kenobi returning Asajj's body to Dathomir, and they lay her into um, a mystical pool on Dathomir, and then they start to leave, and we're greeted by the voices of Mother Talcin and other Night Sisters, helping give Asajj the choice to either join the underworld, the afterlife with them, the other Night Sisters, who happen to have been killed by Grievous, or to go back to the land of the living. Even though if she chooses to go back to the land of the living, she has to give up her love. I mentioned that Dark Disciple was a love story. Quinlan
Mhm.
Voss was the source of, or the focus of her love, and she chose that. She chose to come back to life, and that's where we start in this new way forward.
Right. Right. Um, and again, like I said earlier, like the novel that's the lead in for this is just an incredible novel. And again, I'm going to say it again. You need to go out and read it, listen to it, whatever you want to do. I know not everybody's readers, so But if you have any interest at all of any of Ventress, you want to read this book. That being said, it does open with the voices of the witches, and I really enjoyed the fact that they kind of put her in that pool, and the first thing that she hears is all the voices of the dead witches, and just that force focus. Obviously, they're not force ghosts because they're not necessarily Jedi, or but just that force focus of all the witches speaking to her all at the same time, and she defies those voices and goes back to life to chase after her love. And I just thought that, I mean, what an incredible entrance for this series. Like,
And it was like the first 3 minutes.
right. I mean, this is the epitome of so many love stories. Like, you just, I mean, like The Crow, I mean, non-Star Wars stuff, like The Crow. Like, how many other books and series and TV shows where somebody comes back, opposes death itself just to come back to life for the person they love. And what an incredible entrance to this episode. Like, the rest of the story of the episode is so overshadowed by like that first 3 minutes for me.
Yeah, and all because of a choice. And choice has become such a powerful focal point for all of Star Wars since A New Hope. That
Correct.
individuals come to these points where they get to decide: am I going to go left? Am I going to go right? Am I going to do this or am I going to do that? And
Do I turn
she
off my targeting computer?
do I turn off my targeting computer? Absolutely. Do I throw my weapon away? Do I
Yep.
rescue my friends? All of these choices, and the one of the other great aspects of this storytelling is, yes, it's in this fantasy galaxy far, far away with witchcraft and wizards and space bears and all sorts of monsters, and we can relate to the the impact and the challenge of the choices that we make.
Correct.
you know we have to we have to reap the rewards, and in some cases we have to reap the consequences of them.
Absolutely.
When do we let that choice define us, or do we use that choice to make another choice? you
Right.
know um, and you had mentioned the force. So even in this brief bit of the episode, we get to see more examples of how the force isn't just one thing, and it's not possessed by the Jedi, it's not possessed by the Sith,
Right.
and there's much more to it than just what we've seen in some other areas of Star Wars. There's just like, in our real world, when it comes to religion and this idea of a god or gods, there's lots of ways of viewing the same thing. And they didn't cram it down our throat. They just presented it in this animated form, and it's all there for us to witness and appreciate.
Yeah. Yeah. And I thought it was great. I mean, they definitely, that's one of the first times where, I mean, they did do it in the Clone Wars series, but it's one of the first times that they really kind of delved into the fact that the Night Sisters still live within the Force. They still can talk to their living community, whatever, their sisters, you know. And I thought that was just great because it was a collective, almost like, at the end of Rise of Skywalker. Like, it
Yeah,
was a collective of voices. It wasn't just one, or, you know, like Obi-Wan coming to Luke, or whatever. It was like a whole, you could hear all the sisters talking in the background.
yeah.
I thought it was really good. And again, like, it's a shame because the first couple minutes really overshadowed everything that went on, because I was just, the first time I watched it, I don't think I even got the gist of the episode because I was so enamored with what just happened.
Yeah, and then in typical Star Wars fashion, they jump from Dathomir to some other random planet, and Asajj is doing this thing. You know,
It's okay. Cats.
oh, I thought it was an earthquake.
No, it's cats.
Okay,
So
when we
cat knocked
see,
something over.
well, I didn't hear any crying, so it didn't fall on top of the cat, so the cat
No,
survived.
I think he rode on top of it.
Nice, like a surfboard.
Yeah,
We see her later on, and she comes into contact with this other character that she senses has force abilities. And I don't have a strong connection to the force, but it is interesting how they portray it, and it seems like a change in sound or music or whatever. And it's almost like they, for lack of better words, they sense each other. They
yeah,
get that feeling and figure it out. And it's this kid, and Asajj once again gets a choice. She gets to decide to help this kid or not, and she chooses to help this kid.
yeah. She could turn him in and just be done with it, and instead she chooses to escape with him. It was an interesting choice, and mm, weirdly in character, out of character. It was a good choice.
Well, yeah, especially because we mentioned some of her backstory. So there were times where she was practicing Jedi arts, and other times she was fighting Jedi. And now in this case, this part of the history, the Jedi are on the run. They're
Yeah,
being hunted and either captured or hunted and being killed. And she could have just turned her she could have, like you said, could have turned the kid in, or she could have just turned away and pretended like she didn't know anything.
yeah,
But instead she chose to help this kid, even to the point, spoiler warning for the people who haven't watched it yet, she fights an inquisitor
yeah, yeah, and gets away.
and gets away with the help of this kid. So she attempts to help the kid. The kid in turn has to help her, and they both together survive to live another day.
Yeah. Oh no, I think they did a really good job, and again, like I hate to go back to it, but like the beginning, and then of course it's surprising that they fit this much content into 15 minutes,
Yeah. Or 12 minutes, like you said earlier.
or yeah, 12 minutes, because
Yeah.
you know, uh, got to give all the credits to the people who deserve it.
Yeah. And so you got this first episode, A Way Forward, followed up by the second one, and it's just titled one word, Friends. And
Right.
if I were writing this episode, I probably would have put friends in quotations,
Oh, I agree with that a lot.
because we find out that the people that they're calling friends aren't necessarily friendly.
No.
So in this episode, Asajj is working to help get this lost Jedi to the path. She learns in the last episode that the path is being organized by Quinlan Voss, her long lost love,
Right.
and so she's going to help this kid get to the path and potentially into contact with Quinlan. And she has to reunite with two quote unquote friends, two bounty hunters that she's worked for in the past. And in typical movie fashion, I'll only help you if you help me do this one job.
Right. Right. Exactly. Let's rob the empire in order to get this one thing that we need, and only then will we help you get to the
Yes.
path.
And in typical movie fashion, it doesn't go well.
It does not at all.
And the friends turn on you.
Of course.
And so this character, I think both of those characters that we see that were in this episode, the other two bounty hunters, were in
Right.
other things. They were in Lots Razi. That was the female character, and then there was a
Right.
droid,
The
C-21 High
C-21.
Stinger.
Right. I remember the droid. What was Lots Razi from?
There was another episode of where she was a bounty hunter,
Oh, that's right.
and I can't remember
That's right.
yeah, I can't remember if it was Clone Wars or Rebels, but we did see both of them before. I want
That's
to say it might
funny.
have been the Clone Wars.
I want to say it's Clone Wars too. Now you mention, you know what, I just didn't put my finger on it that the Latsrazi looked familiar, but not like it struck a nerve, but didn't. I couldn't think of where it was from. So yeah, you're right though. That they were in something else.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's nice to see when they bring those characters from these other pieces of content back to this, because their story didn't end when we last saw them. They did some stuff, but now we get to interact with them and see them in new situations. And in this case, the friends thing, very loosely, I'll help you, but only if you help me do this near impossible thing.
And I mean, that of course shows that shady level of the underworld where nothing's free, nothing's good-hearted, nothing's, oh, here you can, let's help you do this. It's never like that. It's always this complicated facade of, this needs to happen in order to, you need to help me, all right, you need to pay enough to get for me to help you. And
Yep.
it's to see somebody that chose the higher path to help Lyco, and then to drop back down into that seedy underworld to try to get help to do better for him, is is kind of the thing that you would expect. I mean, she's kind of a bad guy. That's the stuff that she knows. She All her contacts are in the underworld because she doesn't have Sith friends anymore. She doesn't have Jedi friends. She doesn't. This is all she knows now are these bounty hunters and the scum and villainy of the underworld.
Yeah, and her family have been annihilated. So
Right.
even that, so she's stuck in this place where she has to interact with these folks who don't necessarily have her best interests at heart, and she has to make decisions to help them because she knows she needs what they have. So she, for lack of better words, has to play that game, and at any minute they can turn on her. They can either escape and save their own life, or they could, you know like in this case, they were going to leave Asajj on the planet and take the Jedi, because the Jedi was worth more to the bounty
More.
hunters than that piece of equipment that they were attempting to steal.
Right. Right. Uh, what a what a another, and it was a really great episode. I actually enjoyed it. The back and forth between all the characters, the bank heist that went wrong. It it definitely spelled out bounty hunters, and on this show we can certainly appreciate
Yes.
that.
And at the end, Lycos, the young Jedi, calls Asajj his friend. And
Correct.
it seemed in the moment that it was a genuine friend kind of mentality. Because
It did
once
seem
again,
that
they
way.
helped
Yeah.
each other to survive. They helped each other out of this sketchy situation.
Yeah. I mean, they did have to rely on each other. So, and he did prove his usefulness to not only Asajj but the whole team,
Yep.
and where he was just kind of almost like a burden in the beginning of the episode.
Yeah,
Like
because
he
they
was
only
just,
saw him as that.
yeah. So it
Either
was
something to get in the way of or something to take advantage of. He could be a payout.
right, and there could be a lot of growth for little Lyco.
Yeah. Which gets us to the last episode in that whole part of the series, called One Warrior to Another. So Lyco and Asajj leave that situation and they go to this other planet because they find out that this old guy, this old separatist, may be
Yep.
able to help them find out where the path is. They're told that it's on this planet, and they come across this former leader of the separatist army who just so happens to remember Asajj when she
Yeah.
worked with Count Dooku.
Yeah. And even to the point where he was glad to see her, you know, where he was actually like, oh my God, like you're going to save us kind of thing. Like,
Because you're one of us. You
right,
you probably still think like I think,
right.
which going back to this idea of these connections to the real world. You may be friends with someone at some point in your life, and then for whatever reasons you part ways. You move to a new town, you get a new job, you know you move out of state, and then you come back into contact.
Right.
And sometimes the old friend assumes that you still think the same way that you used to, or you think that they think the same way that they used to.
Right.
um, but not always the case, which we find out in here, that Asajj has grown and has changed her mentality on a lot of things. And this warrior, this veteran from the separatist,
Right.
they no longer think in the same patterns.
Right. A Confederate officer, shall we say?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The only thing missing was the flag on the wall. He had his rank bars, or
Right.
his
His
pins of honor.
Medal of Honor. Yeah. I again, that was an interesting meetup because it was just the point where he almost had reverence towards her, and she was just like, "You don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah,
It's not like that anymore. And the one thing that really the one line that struck out to me is, "We're not at war anymore." And his thoughts of what was going on, and even though he was on this backwater planet, he was still like, well, the Republic are the bad guys, and the Jedi are the bad guys. We're still going to win this war, even though it's over. And it was funny just to see. I mean, there's a lot of real world reference in that. Let's just say
yeah. And
where,
another line that came up that hit me pretty hard was when, so they interact with these raiders, these natives on the planet who, um,
mm,
the veteran and his granddaughter were attempting to get water. They needed, both of the groups needed water to survive. The natives were protecting the water. The separatists needed the water, and so they would often fight over it. Um,
yeah,
it just so happened that the Jedi could speak the natives' language, and the phrase that he uses, sometimes you just have to stop and listen,
right,
something along those lines. And think about how, to your point, applicable that one single phrase is today, 2025.
I agree with that. And that was, I was gonna kind of gonna get to that myself, because I think those two lines go hand in hand with stuff that's going on in real world today.
Yeah, yeah, June 26th, 2025. Yes.
Yes, 100%. Like, the war is over. We're not really fighting. It's time to start thinking a different way, and we really just need to stop and listen. These people are not our enemies. Just don't they're not listening to us, and you're not listening to them.
And we both, in order for us to survive, we need similar things:
Right.
food, shelter, water,
Right.
those sort of the basics.
Everybody needs the basics.
But if we're so caught up in our own world, or our own thought patterns, or our own history, we have a chance for all of us to lose. And the other thing I thought was really wild about this episode is, in addition to the medals of honor this separatist leader had, he also had masks on his wall that were masks of the tribesmen, the the tribal people. So
Oh yeah,
I don't know if those masks were trophies, or
probably.
or something else. And so to think that, it, I don't know, it's the equivalent of, hanging a scalp on my wall, or
A
you know
hunting cabin.
yeah, exactly, a hunting cabin. That idea, yeah, that that these other beings, they're not even sentient. They're animals, and I'm gonna treat them like animals.
Yeah, they're not even people.
Yeah, and come to find out, they are.
Yeah, they just don't speak the same language.
Yep. And they do ultimately get to the path, after all of this stuff. Asajj gets Lyco there to a ship to take him to the path, and instead of Lyco getting on that ship and leaving, to go to safety, he chooses to stay with Asajj, and
Yeah.
that's kind of how the episode ends. They ride off together. So there's so much room for so much more stories for
Well,
Asajj and this Jedi on the run.
well, yeah. I mean, we see Asajj in the Bad Batch. There's no Lyco. What happened to Lyco? I
Yeah.
have questions now, and somebody needs to answer
Yes, Dave Filoni. I know
them.
you're listening. Kristen Baver, come on, help us out with this.
There's got to be somebody out there that's got an answer for us.
Yeah. Hashtag where's Lyco?
Right? Right? There you
Yeah.
go. We need to start it.
And this is just the first three episodes. We've spent like 45 minutes talking about three episodes.
And
And
that's
then
how long they were. If that.
exactly. Then the next three brings up the Duros. Our
Yeah.
buddy Cat, who we didn't in this show we didn't know originally or initially that his name wasn't Cad to begin with. We find out it's Colby, and Cad had a really rough upbringing.
He was a street rat.
He was a street rat. And the first episode is, oddly enough, The Good Life.
Yeah. Which is strange because, in the beginning they're running the streets and collecting food out of the trash and getting into trouble and all the stuff that you would not think is a good life. They're probably sleeping on the streets somewhere or, whatever hole they can find. They're obviously eating half rotten vegetables and scamming droids out of, their groceries,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word. Um, and all they're doing is like running a con game and not getting anywhere at it. Like they're just getting enough food to get by. And really, that's about it.
Yep. And they come into contact with Laszlo, this very confident, almost cocky character with this, once again, this wide brimmed hat, toothpick in his mouth, sharp teeth. Um, and he gives the two boys, Nero and Cad Bane's friend Nero and Cad Bane Colby, gives them some,
Right.
some spare change, and they
Right.
splurge on snacks, and that's where they say, "Oh, we're living the good life."
Yeah. Yeah.
Until this mafioso, this bounty hunter guy calls them to help him because he had given them the money and they needed to they needed to earn that money back.
Yeah. Yeah. And they did. They went out, they got one coin and they spent it on crunchies, as they call them, which I'm assuming is candy from the looks of it, or something quite representative of candy. So they bought penny candy and like pounds and pounds and pounds of it for that one coin, which who knows? It might have been that coin might have been worth quite a bit. And they're just like, here, this is what we want. Here's our coin.
Yep.
And the merchant's like, okay. So I mean, it was obviously worth something. And then just he comes back around with, do you want to earn more? And when you got nothing and you're given a single coin and somebody offers you more, what are you going to do? Unfortunately, the good life was running around and running cons and stuff like that and having a best friend to run around with. And of course, they agree. They agree to take that, 10 times? I think they agree for
Yeah.
10 times the amount. And so then they run their first gambling den heist.
That didn't necessarily go well.
No, it didn't go well at all. In fact, Nero got arrested and Colby got taken off planet with Laszlo.
Yep.
And yeah, that's kind of where the episode ended. I mean, they didn't really tell you much about what happened after that.
Yeah, and there's a
Just
big jump between the first episode and the second episode.
yeah. The second one, they go back to the same planet. Did they mention the planet? I
I
don't.
don't think so.
I don't think they did either. And the interesting thing is, they were going to run. Laszlo was going to run a scam on somebody at the planet, and he actually wanted Cad Colby, who's now Cad, to stay at the ship. Don't do anything. Don't leave the ship. Keep an eye on operations. Was the phrase that he used. Don't get involved. And it didn't go well. It didn't go well at all. And of course, he ended up leaving the ship because things went bad, and he ran into his old friend, who is a deputy now.
Yes.
So
So even though he got, caught by the law in the first episode, there was that big time gap between the first and the second. We come to find out that Nero has turned a corner and he's chosen a different life.
yeah, and I'm a big fan of the events that happen here because um, essentially he shot the sheriff, but he didn't shoot the deputy. So he did. Laszlo, of course, was killed. Um, I guess, yeah, I don't know if that was 100% clear, but he was definitely taken out of the picture.
Yeah, no, he was killed. In fact,
Okay, he was killed.
He was killed by the marshal, by the sheriff.
That's right. That's right. That's
And
right. He
so
was
Cad came back to the town for revenge.
for revenge. That's right.
He was headed out to kill the marshal.
Right.
And he ended up killing the marshal, and Nero, his friend, arrested him.
Yeah.
And some of his crew.
Correct.
So Laszlo's crew, including Cad, ended up getting arrested. And one of the other pieces that we didn't mention is, in the midst of all this, we learn of a new character, a female Duros, that has
Right.
a relationship with Cad.
Correct.
And she's attempting to tell him, don't do this. This isn't worth it. Let's not do this. We have more at stake here.
Right.
And then
Right.
he didn't listen. He didn't listen to Laszlo. He didn't listen to this female Duros.
No.
And he ended up getting arrested and sent off to jail.
Correct. And the female got shot.
Well, not in this episode.
It wasn't this episode?
No.
I thought it was the end of this episode. Yeah, it was at the end of this episode when she threw his gun away, right before she threw his gun away.
Oh yes, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, because she got shot and then
by the sheriff. She got shot by the marshal.
By the right.
That's
and then
right.
She threw the gun away. Yep.
And she didn't die though.
No, she did not die.
Yeah.
At least not then.
Yeah, she didn't die then. And what we find out in the third episode, which is called One Good Deed, so Cad Bane goes off to space prison or space jail with some of his other members of the crew.
Right.
Some of the members of his crew get out and they come back to town. We find out that Nero is now the marshal.
Correct.
And he also has a son.
He does. Isaac.
And we come to find out that Isaac isn't his biological son. It's his stepson.
Right.
And it's the son from Aaron. I think her name is Aaron.
I think it's Aaron too. Yeah, Aaron and Colby or Cad.
Yeah. And so because it's I don't know if it's ever explicitly said.
I don't think so. I think they just kind of walked around it a little bit, but they definitely leaned into it pretty hard. So
yeah, so Cad is the father of Isaac, who is the son of Aaron. So Cad and Aaron,
right,
did space dancing.
They did,
and that's where we got Isaac. And Isaac was raised by Nero and Aaron before she died.
Right.
and Cad gets out of jail, his buddies get out of jail, and instead of choosing to leave,
he
instead of
again
choosing peace,
he again chooses walks forward.
yes,
And this is the one that grabbed me. This was such a Western episode. This was such a Western episode. Like if you ever watched the old spaghetti westerns, and the bad
yeah,
guy comes to town to get the revenge. I mean, they did such an amazing job with this, with the Western story in this. So I'm sorry. Go
yeah.
ahead.
Well,
I
even the
just had to
visuals of
throw
it,
that in.
that traditional, dual kind of thing where one person's on one side of the screen and another person's on the other, and
Yeah.
the
The
angles looking at their holster and just yeah, it's
the
Western through.
shootout at high noon in front of the city hall or whatever.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh yeah, the visuals were just amazing. And and this is such a great, the whole arc, I should say, is definitely a good way that if you're into westerns of any kind, you could walk right into this and be familiar with all of it.
And
Even though Cad Bane's a Duros, and so many of the different characters are Duros, or the different species in Star Wars, because there's not a lot of humans in all this. There are some, but there's not a lot on this planet.
yeah,
So it was amazing that all these different species kind of came together in this one town, and or in on this planet even, and just, I don't know if this is farther fringe or whatever it was, but it definitely gave that feel of being in a Western movie.
yeah, Western and like gangster mob kind of thing. So a little bit of
Right.
both, because sometimes in those westerns they do have the posses or the gangs or whatever.
Right.
And both of these the two sides of the coin, the Asajj and the Cad Bane, I think they wonderfully displayed how it's possible to tell so many different kinds of stories within Star Wars and still have it be Star Wars.
Yeah.
To
Oh yeah.
use the same visuals, to use similar writers and musical things, and have it be in the same universe as Jedi Temple Challenge or the Acolyte or Andor.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was
It is crazy.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's everything I want from Star Wars.
Yeah, and we also know that there's so much room for more. I mean, if you could wave a magic wand right now, and I know I'm putting you on the spot here, we are at the almost hour 30 mark.
Yeah.
Who are two characters that you would like to see side by side like this?
In like another Tales.
Yeah.
Oh. Um. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. To be honest with you, and it might be a little bit of a weird setup, but I would like to see Lyco and Omega,
Okay.
because those are two characters, like we don't know, like we know where Omega came from, but we don't know what happened after Bad Batch. And same with Lyco. Lyco just shows up, and like there's nothing. He goes off with Ventress, but of course then she's obviously alone at other times, so let's do that.
Yeah. Okay.
How
All
about
right.
you? What do you think?
I think it would be interesting, especially considering what we saw with the Obi-Wan show. If we did Tales of the Skywalkers.
Okay.
So, what did young Leia do? We know she grew up on Alderaan and had adoptive
Oh,
parents. And what kind of shenanigans did young Luke get up to on Tatooine while he was watched by Obi-Wan Kenobi? You know, they
yeah,
they're both from the same lineage, but they didn't have the same pressures, they didn't have the same encouragements, they didn't have the same environments to live. and
right.
and how did those sort of things affect their development and or later decisions?
Okay, I could get behind that.
And once again, like brief animated stuff, so it doesn't have to go into, in incredible detail or lots of hours of it, but just their young lives in such different environments and situations.
Yeah, I could go with that. I mean, the one other thing that I'm gonna mention here, and I guess I don't really know who to pair up with, but we need more Quinlan Voss. That's,
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he's been touched on by so many different things, but he's always like, almost always like a supporting character to somebody else. We need his story, like the whole thing.
Well, how cool would it be to have Quinlan Voss as part of Obi-Wan season 2?
I, there's definitely that, because I mean, or that would be another one, Tales of the Path. I mean, that would be just to find different Jedi that they're smuggling out of different areas and where
Yeah,
they're going with them. You know,
yeah, that'd be a
we
good
don't
one too.
know. I
Yeah.
mean, maybe they're going to. Oh, I had it just on my tongue. Where they go at the end of Jedi Survivor.
Oh, that like really far away planet.
Yeah, through the labyrinth. Oh, I can't think of the name of it. I had it there for a second.
Yeah, it'll probably come to you like 3 minutes after we wrap up shop.
Yep. Yeah, I'm sure it will. But if you know that place,
Yeah.
that place where the Jedi Temple was going to be, that's maybe that's where the path is going.
Yeah, it's possible. That's hard to say, really, and there's just so much room for more storytelling. I'm so glad that you put together this idea of talking about Tales of the Underworld. And I know we had mentioned in our last episode that we were going to do an episode on Forlom and Zucca, so that's in the pipeline too.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we can't forget, you were talking with Mike about doing different hardware that we do as bounty hunters,
Yes.
different weapons that we have, different gear that we use, stuff like that. So we can work on that.
Well, and
One of the
comparing
ones.
ourselves to other bounty hunters, other
Oh yeah, yeah. There's that too.
yeah. So we'll definitely put those pieces together. So when you're not hanging out with me, where can folks find you on the internet and social media?
So as of late, there's been a change. So I do all my table ready painting. I'm doing everything live Thursday nights. Um, every other week is podcast. Off week we do painting, video games, sometimes just hang out and talk and stuff like that. We did one tonight. Just Logan and I sat and we painted some stuff and we talked about 40K stuff. Nothing real deep, just you know, painting about talking about what we're painting and what we're doing. And then, of course, I'm also on Lake Clan Legends with both my sons, and we play D&D, and that happens usually every Sunday. Um, we're doing them live on YouTube now since we have the opportunity to. We finally got our enough views to do that live, so it's usually Sundays at some time. But we're working on that. It's difficult with two teenagers and a schedule, and now we're in summer and we don't wake up till noon 30. So how about you, Ken? Where else can we find you?
So I've also got my solo show called The Rambling Star Wars Fan. I'm in the process of putting together an episode all about Andor. And then Wednesday nights, I usually fly on the Falcon with Mike Hinton and occasionally John Scalise, the inflatable Falcon. And we've been doing that for about 150 episodes at this point.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was that many until Mike mentioned it last night after we had wrapped up. So we've been doing that for quite a while. And occasionally, when the stars aligned, I get to show up on Bantha Milk podcast around the Dejarik table, where we get four people together and ask random Star Wars questions and take turns answering everybody's questions. So
Awesome.
I get out there from time to time, and you can find me on Facebook as Ken Bishop and all that kind of stuff. So from me, your co-host and co-bounty hunter, thank you so much for another great episode. For all of our listeners out there, especially our super fan Sue, thank you so much for being part of this. And as they say, this is the way.
This is the way. And thank you so much too.
Thanks.